I'm Emily Mashak, and you're listening to Tuned In to NoCo, Town Square Media's show that lets you know what matters in NoCo. I'm talking today again with Katie Dockery, the Vice President of Northern Colorado Services with Easterseals, Colorado. So thank you so much for coming in again, Katie. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Emily. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Now, good to have you back, but for those who are new here, may not have caught you on last year, what is Easterseals, Colorado?
Yeah, Easterseals Colorado is a nonprofit that specifically supports those in Northern Colorado who have intellectual and developmental disabilities and or barriers to employment. That's specifically in Northern Colorado. Easterseals is a national nonprofit, and there typically is an Easterseals in most states. Here in Colorado, we focus primarily on services. And that is one of the great things about Easterseals is that it supports the community members with what they need most. So Easterseals Colorado supports those differently in Colorado than an Easterseals in Texas or New Jersey or California per se. So like I said, in Northern Colorado, we support those with intellectual and developmental disabilities through day program. And a day program is a service where those with those disabilities can come to our program and be a part of meaningful activities. It does provide a respite to their caregivers, which is very important, especially in these pandemic times. And we also support those with employment, trying to find jobs. So those are the services in Northern Colorado specifically.
Great. Well, that is such an awesome cause, but I'm sure that some of this has changed because of the pandemic and COVID-19. How has Easterseals been doing throughout the pandemic? What's changed for you?
It's been very difficult for us, like many people, with the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, our services were community-based and socialization. Those two things have really changed with the pandemic. We've been all encouraged to stay at home with our immediate family members and not be in the community. So since our services prior to the pandemic were specifically those two things, we've had to completely change our services to the needs of our clients. So what those have looked like now are a lot of virtual services. We are still providing for our day program specifically the same types of classes just through a virtual platform. And those have been really well attended. However, it doesn't always provide a respite to the caregiver. And we are all experiencing a lot more stress with these pandemic times, that it's even more important to be able to support the families with those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So we've worked with Larimer County government, and they have listed us as a critical service during these pandemic times, meaning that we can provide an in-person service even in the midst of the pandemic. So we follow very, very strict cleaning protocols, social distancing, and mask wearing. But that allows us to be able to provide in-person services to those who are comfortable. So it's a lot different than what it was pre-COVID. We have about a quarter we're only providing about a quarter of the service that we were as an in-person than we were prior to it. So that is one of the things that has really changed with the pandemic. We have then the people that can't access virtual services, we are still calling and sending them activities to do in the mail. So those three ways we have been able to still provide a majority of our services to our clients. So sending them mail of activities to do, providing them a virtual programming or a small in-person programming, we are still reaching all of our clients.
Hmm. That is awesome to hear how you've been able to work around these challenges. And you mentioned earlier that Easterseals kind of differs by state depending on their need. What is the need like for people with disabilities in Northern Colorado, and what challenges are they facing that people might not be aware of?
Yeah, the needs in our community are to be able to provide services to our clients, to be able to be as independent as possible, um, as well as respite for caregivers. Those are very important to our population. So to be able to provide, independence for our clients in these pandemic times has really been those virtual programs. So they can come and be a part of a class. And our classes help with independence. We have cooking classes, we have art classes, we have physical stretching classes, and book clubs and socialization classes. And those really help give our participants the knowledge and through repetition to be able to do these tasks by themselves. That is important for them to be active community members, as well as take the burden off their family to be able to do those things themselves for our participants. And ultimately, each of our services that we provide is innately provided some respite to the caregiver, in that we are providing that service to then take it off the caregiver's back or responsibility. As well as we really look at our participants, and then a lot of their needs are the exact same needs as anyone else in our community. We all want to balance socialization, having friends and being out in the community. And a lot of us, we do have to balance work. So we then help individuals with disabilities find and maintain employment. And that program has been almost as strong as ever, even through this pandemic. A lot of our participants have been acquiring jobs in those critical services in grocery stores, at the post office, things along those lines. So in summary, relatively, that is what our services are needed in Northern Colorado: socialization and employment. And both of them do underlyingly support respite for our families.
Now, clearly, these services have a big impact on our community, and this is going to be a bit of a hard question. But since you've been with Easterseals, do you have any special memories or personal stories that have really shown you how Easterseals makes an impact on the Northern Colorado community?
There are quite a few, which I am very proud to be a part of, have made a significant impact. One that comes to mind is one of our participants. She kind of had a switch in her biological clock for, I guess, her clock for, she was up all night long playing video games and just kind of hermiting in her space and not having any social interactions. So her family had reached out to us to be able to help support some more meaningful socializations through our programming. So it took a little while. We just started off with coming one day a week, and she would be very tired at our program because she'd be up all night playing video games. But soon she realized that she was making some really great connections, and she'd be more excited to come to our day program than to stay up all night playing video games by herself. So it took a little while, but we were able to get her to come to our programs. And after she was a part of our programs, and experiencing the different activities that we would provide, she really got interested in getting a job. And so then we then supported her in finding a job at a local hotel, being a custodian. And now she is leading a very joyful life of friends and activities to do, as well as balancing a job as well. And those things a few years ago weren't even on her radar. And so it's been very great for her personally, as well as helped her family kind of make sure she has all the connections and the support she needs in the community and is not just a hermit in her own house.
I think that is so, so awesome. And I know listeners hearing this, there will be a lot of them who will want to help support these programs and do what they can. How can they do that? Can they donate, volunteer?
Right now in our in the COVID times, we are not having any volunteers. We have capacity issues at our center, and we want to be able to support our mission and our clients first and foremost. So we are having our building primarily for those with our participants come into our center. So volunteering, not right now, but we can take names of those who are interested after the pandemic, so they could come in and be able to support our clients that way. But right now we are in significant financial instability because of the COVID pandemic. Like I had said earlier, we are only supporting a quarter of those we did support prior to the pandemic. So with that, our income as a nonprofit has significantly decreased, and we really do need some monetary support. So how individuals can that are listening can help support us is by going to Eastersealscolorado.org and click on the Donate Now button. So that would be very important, is to select Northern Colorado in their monetary support.
I know listeners will look forward to that information and the days when things will open up again and everyone can get a little more involved. How can listeners who may need the services of Easterseals reach out right now?
Yeah, here in Northern Colorado, they can call 970-669-2777 and talk with our office manager about what types of services that they're interested in. Either the day program services to help a participant with intellectual and developmental disabilities be able to be a part of programming either virtually through our center or even just sending them mail. Or if they're interested in finding a job and need support through that, those are the two services that we can help with at this time.
Very cool. And again, I know with COVID, things are a little limited and up in the air this year, but what is Easterseals looking like in 2021? What do listeners need to know about?
We have really gotten back down to our roots. We had really were looking at other programs and services, but we've just really looked at specifically what impact we're making, and we are focusing specifically on that. So we're just trying to get through this pandemic and come out surviving at the end of it. So that's what we're primarily focusing on. We are, like I said, getting back to our mission specifically, which is our participants. So providing them support is our primary goal, and that is what we're doing. But any monetary support to help us continue through this pandemic would be greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you so much for coming on again, Katie. It was great to speak with you again and hear about how Easterseals is doing. Great to hear about all your work, and I wish you all the luck in this new year.
Thank you, Emily, so much. And thank you to the listeners for your interest in our program, services, and our nonprofit.
Again, that was Katie Dockery, the Vice President of Northern Colorado Services with Easterseals Colorado. To learn more, you can visit easterseals.com/co.